All right. We are on, guys. A few minutes late. Sorry about that. We're getting stuff, figuring stuff out here, working out the new setup. And for the first time, we have a live guest on the live stream. So, guys, I want to introduce my friend Mesa Toves. He is an Emmy Award-winning digital effects artist working on.
I've been nominated twice. I haven't actually won yet. I've been part of a team that's won, but unless you're actually, again, it's very technical. The Academy is very specific about this. You have to be very clear. Yeah.
You're part of a team that's been nominated. In my heart, it's all you.
No. I've been nominated personally twice.
Yes.
Okay. I've been part of a team that's been nominated like 13 times. Okay, or something. It's ridiculous how many times I've been a part of a team that's gotten an Emmy nomination. But I have to explain it. There are only so many names you can actually put on the actual nomination, and you can actually go to the ceremony and your name will be on the award itself. And then after, anyone on the team can get a certificate if you won. You can't get a trophy. You aren't technically an Emmy Award winner. You are part of an Emmy Award-winning team. They make a very clear distinction between those two things. So I've been personally nominated twice, and then part of a team that's been nominated dozens of times. So
the Susan Lucci of digital effects.
Yeah. The Susan Lucci is the Susan Lucci of the Emmys. I mean, she was countless times before she got anything. So, sorry.
No. That's well. I guess you want to keep it clear that way. If there's never any skew, you don't want to thumb your nose at them to the point they're like, well, now we're definitely not getting it.
Well, no. There's also a really specific reason why I emphasize that. It's that there was a guy, I'm not going to mention his name, who for the longest time, he actually worked as, I think it was just an IT guy or a render wrangler. Somebody who watches the render farm for Battlestar Galactica. And when they won an Emmy for the first time, he started putting on his website that I'm an Emmy Award-winning visual effects artist. And like, first of all, you didn't work on any of the shots. Second of all, your name wasn't on the nomination. And third of all, you're putting, this stuff on your website with the Emmy logo and statue and all this other stuff. And it's like, you are out of your mind, right? Everybody on the team was like, who the hell does this guy think he is? It was like you were there, from 3 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the morning watching the render farm and picking up bad frames and resubmitting them. That doesn't make you a part of the art team or the nominations. And it was really messy. So that was
more like digital effects custodian.
Yeah, I mean, he could have said, "Yeah, I'm very proud of the team that won the Emmy. I was there when it happened." That's cool, You still get some, what do they call it? What do they call those? Bragging rights? When they were working on this, and I saw it being rendered and it was beautiful. You can't say like, oh yeah, this is a shot I worked on. You didn't work on it. You watched the work being rendered, and that was kind of it, but that happened, and everybody was like pissed at this guy. He never worked in the team again, and he supposedly went off and he actually took credit for something that I did.
Oh, damn. You have to
in a magazine
right there.
So the guy downloaded all these models from the server and was submitting them to magazines as tutorials, like, this is how to build this is how to light this. And then, the guy knew kind of what, the process was, but it wasn't his work, so it was like, oh man, this guy got a lot of ground covered, lying to people about the work. It was just amazing. And now he's just like some cheap shit techno DJ or something, like what do you call it? A dead mouse wannabe.
Oh,
he's like in his 50s or something. Like, get over it, dude.
well, the problem with claiming bragging rights for something like that when you don't actually have the skills is that eventually someone's going to ask you to back it up and do something. And once you fail,
it was awful. It was awful. So everybody made a joke about it, and so, yeah, let's get him in here. Everybody would chuckle, like, oh. So get rid of that guy. So.
Well, the main reason why I wanted to have you on is because we've been friends for years, and we've met not through digital effects, but through our passion, our love for comics. Years ago, meeting at the California branch of the Comic Artists Guild in Newhall, California. And we've known each other, since that, hang out with our coffee and comics group. And it's like, I've been wanting to have guests on for a while now, and now here we are.
Yeah, to be honest, even though this past weekend was one of the first times I logged in and said something on your chat, I'd actually been watching all your videos for like years. I just, he's got a new video, and I put it on in the background while I'm working. And I was like, hearing a familiar voice on the internet is kind of weird. It's that, to the millennials, it's, that's totally common. I watch my friend's channel all the time, but I don't know too many guys personally who have channels. So, or at least not ones that are active and, fairly consistent. It's just, if I want to feel like the first time in this whole pandemic nonsense is that Vince canceled Coffee and Comics, was one of those times. It was like, I kind of need a familiar voice, and just put on Jeremy's got his channel. So,
bring comfort in these dark times.
Yeah.
And, Vince, just to get people watching, Vince, our buddy Vince Moore, and also Carl Altstetter may jump in. I sent them invites, but it's lunchtime, so it's a weird time. I don't know if they're going to be free or busy or not. But hopefully, I have to keep an eye on the computer while we're talking in case they jump in. I can add them to the conversation. But just to let you guys know, we both are drawing digitally, and we're going to try to share a screen so we can. Well, you're coloring right now, but we're both working on comics digitally, and we're going to see how this happens with having both of us up here talking and sharing our screens at the same time. So I don't know whether it's going to automatically switch between our screens, whether it's going to, whether I have to manually do it. So this is all just us kind of trying things out, testing them out, brand new here. Let me just give a couple of shout outs and greetings to the folks in the chat, because it's really nice everybody showed up before we even started. I see Lego Studios was here well ahead of time. I see Bruno's in the chat, gaming artists. He's here, and he said, "Congratulations, you're almost at 7,000 subscribers." I know, right? It's crazy. It's just been like slowly, steadily creeping up. I plan to keep doing this as long as you guys are here watching. So,
which I could use some help with. I was gonna say, like, everything that I've got as social media wise has been dead all of last year. Like one new follower per, for the entire year of 2019. On like Instagram. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what is everybody doing that I'm not really doing here,
Well, you are still putting out consistent work though. That's the thing. I mean, honestly, at the time, because you had finished, you're done with Pieces of 8, the anthology book, right?
Pieces of 8, yeah. Well, I put it to bed. I'm not going to finish it. It's not finished, but I put it to bed, so.
But the fact that you did, was it 3 issues of that or 4?
3 issues, 3 stories a piece. So yeah, it was like 3 books.
You started that and Encoding Bushido after I started Morningstar. You did 3 issues of that, and you're you're working on issue 5 of Encoding Bushido right now too. 7. See, so you've already blown way by me while doing demanding visual effects work as your day job. So.
I'm not married. I can afford to actually wake up, work a little, go to work, come back, work more. Just like there's nothing standing in my way, except either something physical. We can talk about that, because I haven't told anybody this, or I haven't told too many people this, but I went to the hospital at least 3 times for exhaustion, during the last 2 years. So. It was like I collapsed at work in front of everybody. Just like I got up from my desk, like I don't feel so good, and just plop right on the floor. I face planted. So I was like, Jesus! Everybody ran over to, what the hell happened? Like, it's like, he needs to eat something is what's wrong. Like it was awful. So I was like, yeah, you should go home, take it easy. We don't really need you here today. And like, okay, bye. For a couple of days.
Wow. Honestly, I did not know that, and I feel like a shitty friend for not knowing that, because that's a big deal.
It wasn't a health emergency. It was just me being stupid. It's like, oh yeah, just keep going. You're almost done. Like you don't notice, like that numbness in your hand kind of thing. Like you're supposed to, that's not the symptom I'm talking about. When stroke, we always tell people you're gonna have a stroke if you feel this, this, and this. Well, you're gonna hit up if you don't notice the signs of exhaustion. Like just like if your head nods, you're working and your head nods for no reason. You haven't eaten in a while. Yes, your blood sugar is getting too low. You just think, no, just push through it. Get some more coffee, whatever. So it's just stupidity.
Yeah, but I mean the problem with it is that not ignoring those symptoms of exhaustion will eventually lead to serious health problems later on. I mean, that's how so many creatives put themselves in an early grave. So I mean,
the Alex Toths of the world,
exactly. You don't want to end up like that. I mean, I want to go out at the drawing board, but I want to go out in my late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, when you accumulated. Oh yeah, I pretty much done everything I need to do. I'm just doing this for the hell of it now. Oh yeah, I gotta go.
Hang on, I just want to just real quick jump back to the chat because I see my buddy Amar's in here, and he actually mentioned that StreamYard will allow us in terms of the screen sharing to do that for us. So I think it will just automatically jump between our different screens. I see El Gargoyles in the chat. What's up, man? And Lego Studio says he actually found a way to time travel, so that's how he was able to get to the chat.
I just switched over. I for the longest time I was set to private chat. How come I'm not able? Oh, there. You got to switch to live comments.
Yeah, there you go. So I mean, you can see the I basically I think I mentioned to you before. I've got my phone on next to my tablet, so I can look down and see the comments over here. There's a whole other screen that I've got to the side where I've got the controls here. So let's try adding our screen shares to this. Let me see. I have to turn on my screen share.
Yeah, you go first. I'll go next.
All right. Let me pick my screen. And then, it's actually asking me to do something over by the desktop. So next time I'm going to start the screen sharing, have it going beforehand. So I got to go over here now.
And are you using the same laptop as your, or do you have a full desktop setup when you're working at home?
Wait, hang on, because I'm trying to figure out why this thing is acting weird here instead of just showing. Oh, because I have to flip.
I can see your desktop.
There we go. All right, so it's showing that.
That's your tablet, right? It's showing up right now.
This is the tablet, and let me actually zoom out and then go back in. I realized for the longest time I'd been doing it in portrait mode, and then just yesterday I was like, let me just put this in landscape just cause. So now it's got us as talking heads on the side, and
right.
I'm not sure what will happen. Oh wait, let me just. There we go. That should be fine. All right. So let me just make some scribbles to make sure that this is working. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So it looks like everything's working. And if you want to add your screen and share it, because you're drawing on the same device, it may cut out your visual and just show your screen. I'm not sure how it's going to work. So, hey, we're just, oh, wait. One of the guys in the chat, Amar is AWAB. So when you see that, that's who I keep referring to.
Okay.
But yeah, because he knows how to do all this because the man's got mad tech skills. He says now when he shares, I have to control to toggle how screen is sharing. So I think that if you share your screen, then I'll just be like, I'll flip it back and forth between the two of us and then just have it draw for you for a little while, me for a little while. But you know what? As long as we're doing that, if you're ready to jump in with the screen sharing, then maybe you can talk a little bit about Encoding Bushido, because the people watching my channel have been watching me draw Morningstar for like a long ass time. You know, they haven't seen your work before, so it'd be a good chance to sort of tell them a little bit about, you know, your work, what you're doing, where the story came from.
All right. Well, can you see my screen right now? I was just going to open up the main PDF.
I think you actually have to, in StreamYard, you have to click share screen.
Yeah, I did, and I selected. It says it's okay.
Oh wait, no, you did. Oh, you know what? You did do it. I just realized it was below the I could see it, but it was sort of hidden below the menu that I have. So I have to add it, but it's not letting me scroll down. Yeah, go ahead and hit screen share again. And I
already did
the stream.
You want me to do it again?
Yeah, because I saw it pop up for a minute at the bottom of the screen here.
Okay, it says it's sharing.
Now let me add that. And we've got like the infinite.
Sorry, yeah, it's because
okay, there we go.
StreamYard is putting the stupid bar at the bottom that I can't get past to get into my actual.
Oh no, it's showing you. It's you can just ignore that, or you know what?
Well, it's covering the task.
There's a hide button right next to it. To hide that little command there.
Okay, there it is. Yeah, dumb.
See, that's what I was messing with when I was sharing my screen. So now, and you know what? It can still see you. So I'm seeing what the audience is seeing. So the camera is still showing you. We're both on the screen while it's sharing screen. So we can toggle back and forth.
Okay.
Well, Amar also says that we can toggle the featured talking head as well. I don't think our heads need to get blown up. I think you guys, it's fine with us being small in the corner. If Amar, if you do know how to set it up, so it'll toggle to the screen share of whoever's talking, that would be cool. That way when Jesse's talking, it'll show what he's drawing. When I'm talking, it'll show what I'm drawing. If there's a way to set that, I mean, I know at some point I should just, I don't know, maybe look at the help menu, learn how to properly use this website. But I figure I've got you guys here live. If you happen to know this, how to do it, and that helps too. That's awesome. But meanwhile, Encoding Bushido, writer, artist, colorist, creature and concept, and mech designer Mesa Toves is walking us through his current project.
Too many titles guy. That's what I am. But yeah, well, Encoding Bushido is that play on the phrase, or at least the saying, the Bushido code. Mm-hmm. It's basically, if you could turn the Bushido code, the rules of Bushido into programming, would a robot programmed like that be honorable? That's the headline, you know, that's the elevator pitch. But you know, underlying all of this was the fact that it's kind of what I do, robots. I mean, I worked on Battlestar Galactica animating Centurions for years. And, you know, just sort of obsessed with the idea everybody is now of the artificial intelligence, you know, sector blowing up. And we, at one point, this all started as part of that samurai graphic novel we all worked on, with the essential question from Carl for the anthology being, what does samurai mean to you? And I think all of us, at one point, Carl stopped us all and said, hey, you guys are all doing kind of the same thing. Can you go back to the drawing? A couple of you go back to the you know, barbarian revenge stories, you know, exactly the same, you know, sort of what was the, what's that famous samurai series? Zatoichi. You're all doing Zatoichi. Come on. Oh. he was just trying to make a joke about it. You guys are all doing Zatoichi, various forms of Zatoichi stories. Can you go back to the drawing board, you know? But I went, you know, the full meta, you know, it's like, well, he's asking the question, what does samurai mean to me? But I can't answer that question unless I know actually what does samurai mean. Mm-hmm. And for everybody, when you ask the layperson, especially in America, you know, like, what does samurai mean? You know, this, it means warrior or soldier or Japanese lord. It means none of those things. The actual literal translation, I think, in some circles. It depends on who you ask or whatever. But the most common translation of the actual word is active. It means to serve. It means you serve a lord. You're a servant, right? So me being obsessed with robots, what's the actual meaning of robot? Yeah, the literal word robot, I think what is it, Swedish? It means slave.
Oh.
Another kind of servant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you combine these two meanings. What a samurai robot is a slave robot who serves whatever. So the eventual story was, simple enough. It's very Pinocchio-like. The master, Geppetto, or at least in my story, Takeshi, constructs robots of not necessarily human, but extremely lifelike, intelligent, and in the service of the military, robots. So that's how the story kind of kicks off. He's, a genius military contractor, creates two brothers, right? It's Cain and Abel with robots. It was the really, really short pitch. These two robots built at different times. One is the pilot program, which is another joke that I kind of in-joke for James Clavell fans. His name is Anjin, which in James Clavell's Shogun means pilot. So that was a joke as a reference to, James Clavell. And the other guy is named after a college friend of mine, Kosuke. So these two brother robots have different qualities, and they show different properties of the Bushido code. And a lot of the historic Bushido code writing comes from around that time of the Reconstruction. I think it's the Meiji period, where Japan was trying to modernize. So one of the things that was done was to actually write down what the Bushido code is, because if you understand the way of the Budo or Bushido, almost none of it's written. It's really just when you become a lord of some kind, you're given property and you're allowed to wear a weapon and you've done some kind of training, you eventually find yourself in the service of a warlord or lord or feudal lord, and that he gives you entitlements, so you can call yourself within the samurai class. And at one point, the samurai class were the only people who were allowed to carry weapons. So, if you know a lot of this stuff, about the Bushido, that rewritten Bushido code has 7 tenets, right? The stuff you're familiar with, honor, loyalty, integrity, all those, simple sort of, taglines. But when I read it, the first thing I thought of was the 7 deadly sins. So each one of these brothers, throughout the course of the books, demonstrates either a deadly sin or a tenet of Bushido. So they bounce off of each other, kind of, towards the end, where you have your final, which I'm working on right now, issue 7. I'm actually coloring, or a third of the way coloring issue 6. And I'm done with the flats and flat pass of color for issue 7. I'm kind of working on the last 2 issues as one big book. Because unlike the previous 5, they're the most compressed in time. They take place almost, I don't want to say real time, but they're very linear. It's hour to hour almost, for the last 2 issues, just to kind of take the pacing up a notch, because I never gave, in the first 5 books, how much time passes, but it's generous. If I had to actually, write it down on a calendar, I'd say there's a few months that pass between the first issue and the 5th issue. And then issue 6 and 7 is just a big fight.
It's funny. That pacing almost exactly mirrors Morningstar, in the sense that, again, I'm vague about how much time is passing, but now, like, the last issue is one giant, basically it's different moments in one giant fight scene. But in order to do that, I had to super speed up everything that went before it. So issue 6 and issue 7 are both like hyper compressed. I think it's the kind of thing where I think in most stories, when you get to the climax, there's very few things that really slow down in the climax. It tends to be almost like bullet time.
Right. Well, comics are like bullet time. They've been like that since the modern sense of them is that. And I've done that in this it doesn't show on my in this PDF very well, but I use that concept of bullet time several times across the issues. Well, like one of the aspects of this AI sense of paranoia that the one robot has is that he's able to, like, if you really were an artificially intelligent computer slash robot in that's able to encode the real world, in images in 3 dimensions and then in four dimensions in your own memory, you could potentially walk around in your own memory.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could actually freeze a moment, examine it, and walk around it because it's so perfectly recorded, in your own data, in your own consciousness. At least that's one of the concepts in the book that feeds this one guy's paranoia, is that he's able to examine, to obsess about particular moments in that 4-dimensional way. That he's walking around in his own head is what I tried to depict, which is kind of a strange concept, and whether or not it works on the page is up to anybody who reads it. But it's a guy walking around a scene from his own memory and reinterpreting it, in order to make sense of anything, like we all do. We all kind of think back on a particular moment and like, what did I do? And then people say about memories that you only really, your emotions tie to memory more deeply, so that if you didn't have a particularly emotional or visceral response to something, you're not going to remember it in very great detail. Like the time you went to the restaurant you go to all the time for the 50th, you can't tell from one time to the 50th time unless something happened that was special. And you have that ability to remember it with a little more detail, because you have different emotional memories about individual things. It was one of those things that I thought was really interesting that I tried to turn into a narrative thing, for a comic book page. And like changing the pacing, you're talking about bullet times. It looks like bullet time in a weird way. Like you see those, like if you ever saw a bullet time stage, you'd see like the 100 cameras that are mounted on a system that triggers them individually in time. So that it triggers individually, they're triggered all at the same time, but because they're in different positions, like you get that effect, that you froze a moment, so, which not a lot of people are doing that whole bullet time technique anymore. It's interesting that, here's the visual effects guy talking that because cameras are both faster and higher resolution now, and they can do light field capturing, you really only need 1 or 2 cameras to interpolate between, all where you needed dozens of cameras before. The photogrammetric capabilities of the software now can fill in those spaces if you didn't have extra cameras on set, which is like, it's the extension of that Litro camera, that technology that came out a while ago. But that's that we're diverging from comics, so.
But it's funny, just in thinking about that, I do notice that they use that. True, they don't use that effect as much anymore. Like it was one of the things where it definitely got played out a lot, like a new toy that everyone wanted to use in movies. But I do notice that in Westworld, they have a lot of sequences where all of the characters except for one character are frozen, and you have people walking around. I feel like that's sort of like where the technology is still being played with. Now, people are no longer using it like to draw attention to itself. It really is part of the narrative.
It's funny you bring up Westworld, because I got really angry with that show. Because
wait, I have to tell just to let the audience who are watching. It is historically, whenever having fun conversations with Jesse, we'll invariably stumble upon something that makes me very angry.
I'm envious of the fact that they beat me to the punch on a lot of concepts that I already wrote. Right? Like if you read the relationship I have between 2 of my characters, directly mirrors the relationship they established. And we were just, sort of going down the same path. They just beat me to broadcast well, actually, if I think about it, I actually beat them by several years with several of the concepts of the relationship between the creator of the AIs and like on their show, it was in that Anthony Hopkins character and several events around that character, you know, that I kind of like, oh, I did the same thing, you know, and then they did this other thing in the new series. I don't want to say anything for spoilers of either my book or Westworld, but it's like, damn it, we did the same thing again. You know, and we just it's sort of very, very convergent concepts. I think that you know the writers and I were feeding off of the same materials and concepts that we arrived at the same creative decisions. Which is that? What's the word for that? Is that cryptonomia or whatever?
I've not heard cryptonomia. I've heard, usually when I hear people talk about that, they talk. I hear people referring to just things being in the zeitgeist in terms of like all of the content that's going into the collective subconscious is we're all drawing from that same pool. So that's usually where I hear the phrase. But what's this other phrase again?
Well, you know, it's just that the same thing. It's just that whatever's in the air tends to make certain people arrive at the same sort of deductions, and therefore the same creative decisions. Like there's just the DARPA projects of, or sorry, the Boston Dynamics projects. Like visually in Westworld, there's a lot of that influence of the Boston Dynamics robot construction methodologies and material usage that they kind of picked up on in some of their robotics and stuff. And so did I. Like I have these robot dogs. I don't know. It's on my screen right now.
Oh yeah.
These robot dogs were totally inspired by, the, what do they call them? Spot or whatever. The
dog, like the ones for search and rescue.
Yeah. Mine I use them for security, but they actually articulate, mine speak in a very sort of official RoboCop like police officer by the book kind of, please remain still until law enforcement representatives arrive. That's how I kind of imagine them to talk. Instead of being like bark, like growling, like, robot dogs, they would be able to articulate, the standard responses of, law enforcement.
It's like a micro version of Ed from RoboCop.
Yeah, exactly. But they're quadrupeds, they can outrun humans. They have particular communication abilities. They're basically alarms with legs. They flash lights at you. Maybe they have a little stun gun and mounted in the head display there. But a lot of those concepts, like in Westworld, they have that urban pacification robot now, as well as a construction robot and stuff like that. And they have that similar Boston Dynamics, very ruggedized sort of features kind of thing. But it was just a bunch of people thinking with the same stuff in the air. You do your current research, you Google any topic, and even Google will give you the most current and relevant recommendation engine driven results. So we'll get when we're doing our research, we're getting exactly the same stuff if we're using the same search criteria, that's to be expected.
But that in a way, I know a lot of people who haven't had as much experience in the creative industry as you have. A lot of times they hear about like they don't want to share their ideas with anybody because they're afraid of it getting stolen, or if they do have an idea and then they see that somebody else is doing something that's similar, like, well, I can't do that now. Someone else has done that. But it's like if you ask 100 artists, paint me a dragon, you're gonna get 100 different dragons. Because we all interpret that very, very differently. It's going to have wings. It's going to have teeth. It's probably going to have a tail. But other than that, you're going to get widely. I mean, it'll be a bell curve where in the middle there may be some stuff that's pretty similar, but then at the extremes you're going to get some very, very different looks. And I think
you're going to get a lot of Sons of Drogon.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, that's a little Drogon. Like it's whatever's in the air. I'm guilty of that as well. Seeing particularly, like I've drawn dragons a lot.
I know that's one of the things that made me think of it.
Yeah, but I've also had to animate a lot of dragons. If it had wings like that, I'd probably animate it. But yeah, you know, everybody's right. I used to feel that same way if I saw an idea and I hadn't executed on it yet. I'd say, oh, well, that rules that out. I can't do. I'm not doing that. You know, and that's really just the ego talking. You know, like
Yeah.
you want to do something and be accused of copying it when I may or may have not, you know, seen it first, done it first, or whatever. But I can't afford that now because I'm just so deep. You know, the sunk cost of finishing this book is people realizing that yeah, this feels like it can't. I saw this after Westworld, but I'm going to give Westworld credit for doing it first. You know, in your own mind, you know, you can only experience things, you know, as a human being in a linear fashion. So if you saw Westworld first, you know, yes, you know, you know, you saw that first, but I promise you the copyright dates on my material will bear out, you know, in the Copyright Office that I filed for my copyright in 2009. You know, in you know, retrospect, you know, these guys, you know, broadcasted it, you know, at a certain date and was, you know, all of that crap. You know, you can't convince someone they didn't see something first over there. You know, it's a futile strategy. You just have to commit to wherever you are in your project. You wrote these concepts. If you have time to change them, people have done that. I mean, look at the Sonic movie. You know, people, that's a slightly different thing, but you know, the reaction to something that you have the power to change or don't have the power to change, that's, you know, if you got the money, the wherewithal, you know, and everybody's on board, by all means, go ahead and change something for either the better experience of the audience or not. But otherwise, it doesn't matter because I'm not the first guy to draw a robot dog.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the first guy to use it in this context. But I do have an event that is based on like this. Everybody incorporates their life story into their work, I like to think. And there is a story in this book. Like I'll just tell it right now. When I was 6 years old, I was attacked by a German Shepherd. You know, it was literally as big as me. We were looking eye to eye when it came up to me and tried to eat me.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I was like horrified as a kid at this thing, you know, that looks as big as a horse. You know, proportionally, it would have to be as big as a horse right now for me to get the same, you know, sort of experience with an animal coming to get me. You know, but as a 6-year-old looking at a German Shepherd, I was like, I'm thinking, I'm going to die. You know, this thing is going to kill me. I worked that experience into part of what my robot dogs do. You know, it's like if you were looking eye to eye at one of these things, you know, how would you fight it? You know, as a quadruped versus biped, you know, like that's part of the story, you know. So I guarantee there's not, you know, not too many people who can work that experience into their robot dog story.
Well, can I also just mention, because I always keep an eye on the chat, Amar also mentions or reminded us that Westworld is a remake.
Yeah, you know, I grew up with that first version, you know, that Yul Brenner, you know, that was, I thought that was the coolest. I was never into Westerns, but I was like, that's the coolest cowboy ever, man. He's part robot. Oh, yeah. And now, yeah, Ed Harris, I guess, has taken that character's mantle. Like, he's my favorite character on the show. And I love the show. Don't get me wrong, but I am pissed that it makes me desperately angry that they'll get the credit for doing something first because everyone saw that first, and I'm just some obscure author in the middle of nowhere.
See, that's the thing. The one thing that I think people compliment me on is my unending optimism, which is weird because I'm equally optimistic and bleak at the same time. Yeah. But the way that I frame that is your book is the book for people who love Westworld. If you say, did you love Westworld? Well, guess what? After the season finale, you're going to have to wait probably a year and a half, 2 years till the next season. Here's what you read next. And in fact, if you loved the Westworld when they brought in the samurai culture and they had my shit when I saw the Wu-Tang, when I realized the Wu-Tang, you know, part was in there, I was like, oh damn. I think everyone who's a Wu-Tang head, I mean, I like Wu-Tang. I'm not a full-on Wu-Tang head, but I have to imagine people are the Wu-Tang heads. They just
if they watch,
So, but yeah, the fact that is that you're doing a book that treads in the same genre and some of the same themes, but it's different perspectives and different characters, and it goes in a different direction. You're not going to watch it and get the same story you're getting in Westworld. And I think that's the thing. Like when you tell people, the first thing you should say to people is, if you loved Westworld, you're going to love this comic. That's the way that I would tell it. By the way, Vince is also in the chat, and he just wanted to say that he was running errands and couldn't make it. Hopefully he can make it for another one. And I actually had a timer set on my phone. Yeah, I'm shortly gonna have to get back to the day job. So I think that this went well, even though we didn't actually spend any time drawing.
Yeah, we didn't have time.
I think what I'm gonna try and do is schedule one more for later in the week, and we'll see if Carl or Vince wants to hop in, maybe Thursday.
Yeah.
So we'll see if we can get another one in. And I think what will probably happen is we'll be drawing, and then maybe one of them will be talking. The same way that you and I were talking, then whoever else jumps on, they can be talking about their experience. We can have us drawing on the screen and share more of that. But I appreciate you coming on, and I'm glad it's a chance for us to catch up in this time when we, don't get to see each other and hang in person. So this was really cool, and hopefully I can start making it more of a regular thing. Is maybe not necessarily having a guest on every because these days I usually live stream every 2 weeks, and then I just the rest of the weeks I post just short videos. So I've still got a ton of time-lapse videos I haven't shared, but maybe hopefully having somebody on once a month to hang out and talk. So
it's the new K&K.
Maybe. I mean, Vince has been talking about it going virtual anyway, and I mean, I'll say this: if we did that, we would probably have to do it on Zoom, and then upload it later. I don't think we could do it live because it would just be too many people.
Yeah, I don't know what the upward limit of this stuff is, especially for, I've just got a little DSL connection.
Yeah, and I've also, well, I'll tell you this. I'm still taking my figure drawing classes live. The instructor is doing them through Zoom, and we all basically just sit in front of our computers, and the model is spotlighted, so the model's big on the screen. So hopefully you're not doing it with a cell phone. You're doing it with like a large enough monitor that it's worthwhile. But a lot of times we have it where if there's too many people on there, it gets chunky. He'll have everyone except for the model and the instructor turn their video off, and most people are muted, so that way it doesn't make the thing buffer poorly, and because sometimes we'll get bad video quality. So if we were going to try and do a coffee and comics get together, it would definitely have to be probably us just talking. I definitely don't think you can handle live streaming that.
Yeah.
So, and plus everyone would have to be comfortable with that being broadcast, or maybe we just have a get together and it's not shared live. Maybe it's just something just for us. So that's the other thing about social media is that we feel like we're documenting every moment of our lives and sharing everything, and not everything has to be for the world. Sometimes we can have stuff.
I mean, if Vince is listening, I remember I FaceTimed him last month.
Mm-hmm.
That was worthwhile because we had to talk about, there were some serious topics, and I would not want the general public to get, because we went deep into some, not necessarily controversy, but it was around, like we were talking, industry stuff that happened late, just in the last couple of weeks, and like, wow. Mm-hmm. And at 2:00, I was going to say, I think 2:30, Steve Geppy from Diamond is going to be live, giving a live announcement from them.
Ooh, because there's been a lot of heat going on in the direct market. I didn't know he was going to be live. I'll have to go listen to that.
What is it, that channel? Kayfabe, Comics Kayfabe?
Those guys. I love those guys. They're so awesome.
2:30.
Wait, I just want to tell you, I actually meant to. I haven't done this yet, but I wanted to leave a comment on Ed Piskor's. Just leave a comment for him that I randomly pulled up YouTube on my TV because I have a Roku. TV. So I was pulling it up, and when I was searching for stuff, when you go to just the general search, it'll show you under topics. And I think the first one was art. The second one was baking bread, because I was just looking up stuff for Netta. And the third one comes up as Ed Piskor.
Yeah.
So he's front in my mind in terms of I've been watching a bunch. They've had a lot of great. I mean, their videos and interviews are great lately, but they've been on a run. I guess because everyone's just shut in, so people can show up.
Yeah, anytime Howard Chaykin opens his mouth, I have to listen. So.
I know, and he's been hitting up a lot of podcasts, and they've all been equally interesting and covering different topics. But I actually, let me see. Amar also mentioned that we can have up to 5 people just on this with the free account on StreamYard. So before we head out, I know you said that you haven't been necessarily getting a lot of love on your social media, so hopefully we can change that. Why don't you tell me real quick where you want to point people to look at your work, and then I'll also go in later on and add those links in the video description.
Yeah, I'm just Zeustoves, Zeus Toves. It's short for Jesus Toves.
Mm-hmm.
It's an old joke, but Toves, one word, lowercase, on Twitter and Instagram. My website is jesse-toves.com. Although I had to rebuild that quite substantially, I'm going to open up the shop again relatively soon. It's mostly visual effects based, but yeah, Twitter and Instagram, Zeus Toves.
And if people wanted to say buy Encoding Bushido, let's say they wanted to buy it on Kindle or Comixology, or if they wanted to buy it
for now.
Comixology.
I have some print copies left over of issue 2, but I'm not going to print anything until a lot of this kind of settles down. And I finished the last 2 issues. So but right now, everything from issue 1 through issue 5, as well as the issue 0 preview issue, is available on Comixology. Just Encoding Bushido. You should get there.
All right. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate it. And Amar, thanks for all the great comments. I'm going to get you on one of these soon. I think maybe next week I'll hit you up separately, and we'll see if there's a time that's good for you. Obviously, you're free during lunches because you're here now, but we'll see if we can set up a time and get on together and get you on too. But everybody else who's watching, thank you so much. El Gargoyle, I see you too there, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. So, and Jesse, again, thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So that's it for now, guys. Go be creative.